which we'll show you in just a minute, where you can see gusts up to 55 miles an hour. As this pulls ashore, it is going to be weakening. But don't forget, Southern California is so unique with so many different mountain ranges. We have the Santa Ana Mountains going up 5,600 feet, the San Gabriel Mountains going up 10,000 feet, Santa Monica Mountains 3,000 feet, Mount Laguna here just to the east of San Diego at 5,700 feet. And so when you have that wind coming in, it's not just a straight sea level wind like we see a lot of times on the East Coast. You've got the mountains. And so even when this is a depression, as it goes very far inland, we have those high wind warnings and those wind advisories stretching all the way up, believe it or not, into Montana. And a lot of this is not only because of this entity, but because of the mountain ranges. And I was talking to a friend yesterday. You know, everyone from California calls and says, all right, Abrams, what's going to happen? I said, well, you live in the valley. I'm not too worried about you because you're not at a high peak. And he said, yeah, but still, the way the wind whips around and comes down, it has caused problems for us. And so today is the day. You will have the strongest winds today. They're going to be coming in this morning, stick around through the afternoon, those tropical storm force winds. And don't forget, this is falling apart, thankfully, but we still could get 40-mile-an-hour winds. Palm Springs, Blythe, 50. And remember, this is not necessarily at elevation, and it's not where the wind's going to come down a mountain. It's going to whip around a mountain, and you just happen to be right in that spot. So do keep that in mind. Notice by tomorrow morning, things really have quieted down with the winds overall because the storm is moving just so quickly. Rip currents, major issue here for us along the coast, anywhere from south from Santa Barbara all the way down into San Diego. We'll talk about those wave heights in just a bit. Lynette.
All right, Stephen. You
recover as we continue tracking Hurricane Hilary on weekend recharge. But don't forget, we literally averaged 0 inches for the month of August. Vegas averages 0.32. We could get a ½ inch or more. And also really strong winds here, 25, 35-mile-an-hour winds, gusting to 60, even gusting to 75 miles an hour near Mount Charleston. Charleston Peak goes up 12,000 feet. So right now, Lake Havasu getting some gusts there up to 20 miles an hour, but that rain's already coming to Vegas, and it is likely that we could see flash flooding. Death Valley, very likely that we could see that flash flooding. So let's roll through it here and look at the timing. There's a rain coming on and off, so don't think you're finished. Notice through the entire day into the early morning hours of Monday, then we'll start clearing out as we head later in the day on Monday. But overall, again, we could see maybe twice what we get for the month here into Vegas. The winds, what are they going to look like? Don't forget, we've got the Sierra Nevada. This is going to be real trouble for those that are trying to cross over some of those mountain passes. The event is today. Tomorrow, things will start to improve for us. Let's take you into Palm Springs. Jen Carfagno live here throughout the day for us. Palm Springs, we averaged for the entire year 4.61 inches of rain for the entire year. Do you know that we could get that out of this system just in a matter of a couple days? In August, we get like a 1/10 of an inch. I mean, we are going to see potentially a year's worth of rain in Palm Springs. There's a ton of mountains here around Palm Springs, and that is going to probably flood the area. And that's why we have Jen Carfagno there, 3 to 4 inches of rain for us. And those winds coming in as well into places like LA. In the mountains, we could see them up to 60 miles an hour, and our rainfall is going to be, again, in that kind of 1 to 3 inch range for the coastal and valley areas, LA, Ventura counties, 3 to 7 possible into the LA mountains and Antelope Valley. And so, as you know, Lynette, that could cause debris flows. That's what we're worried about here, especially there's still some burn scar areas here, even though we got a lot of rain in the winter.
Exactly. Mudslides, all that stuff, Steph. So, yeah, that's why we're here trying to keep it.
But, of course, all around you, we just have mountains that go straight up. The city of Barstow lies about 2,000 feet above.
Across the nation, we're really not used to that. But when we talk about in California, when we talk about in Nevada, oh, yeah, it's not a good thing for sure.
These are places at sea 4 inches for the entire year. I can't get over the fact that if you look up National Weather Service, the data in Los Angeles, we see 0.00 inches for the entire month of August.
Yeah, it's the dry season.
It's the dry season on top of it.
Exactly.
So that's why we're so concerned.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to watch this, not only in this area, but sliding on off to the north as well. So this system means business.
You know what also is pretty wild? Look at the path of this thing. It's going up and over, and it will go all the way across basically the northern tier and into the northeast. northeast as we head a little bit later. That's much farther down the line, the energy from it. But we've got to focus in on these flood watches here. California, Arizona, Utah, we're looking at you. Nevada, all the way up into Idaho and Oregon as well.
Exactly. So we know that we're going to have the flooding. So to keep people safe, people go to the highest level of your building. And if you're in a vehicle, make sure you don't get out of the vehicle.
Yeah, we're not used to it down
Right.
here. People always make this joke like, oh, if it rains in Southern California, everyone panics. Well, now we're going to get several months worth or a year's worth of rain. So you want to turn around and don't drown. Just everyone stay home. If you can stay home, that's the best thing that you can do. Chance for thunderstorms. Paul was mentioning that. Even tornadoes, too, here.
Exactly. So remember, you have that friction and it can spin up those thunderstorms. So we're going to watch that as we go throughout the day as well.
All right, there's your threat for tornadoes. It is a 3 on a Torcon. It is a 3 out of 10. The higher the number, the higher the risk. But don't let your guard down on this. Large wind threat. Now, of course, it is going to be reducing its wind speed as it comes in, but it's still going to have, look at the advisories posted all the way up into Montana. I want to talk about Orange County. We are going to have not only the winds here that we're going to have to be dealing with, 20, 30 mile an hour winds as you go up in elevation, you're going to get those winds up to 50, 60, even maybe 70 miles an hour, the higher the peak. That's going to be a today event. By tomorrow, the winds will start tapering down. This thing is hauling. I mean, it's moving over 20 miles an hour right now. So watch as we go through the day today. Palm Springs, all the way inland. Look at Yuma, 60 miles an hour. And again, this isn't even the peaks. And if the winds get squeezed in between two areas, they accelerate as well. Notice as we head into tomorrow morning, by Monday 3 a.m., things are really going to be a lot quieter and the same as we go through the day. They will just be improving. But not only do we have that rip current risk, we have the waves because the wind causes that and the swells continue here. So we already have reports of 10, even almost 20-foot waves. Orange County, large breaking waves, 4 to 7 feet, occasionally up to 8 feet, particularly north of Newport Harbor. San Diego County, breaking waves 3 to 6 feet expected. Highest will be north of Carlsbad. So you can see that they kind of degrade as we go over time because, of course, this system, Lynette, is falling apart.
Yeah, it's going to fall.
Near the peak of hurricane season, those in hurricane-prone areas know how important it is to be prepared during and after a storm. Meteorologist Reynolds Wolfs talks with one lifelong Florida resident who decided to install a standby generator. At sea level, is there a way to show the viewers just how quickly that incline goes up from where you're standing just over the water there in San Diego? It's because we have a big ridge off to the east. This is causing heat in the central U.S. This is just a very quick sketch. A trough coming in, and so the flow essentially is coming high pressure clockwise. It's bringing it right into California and then right up into the West Coast, essentially. That's what's causing it. When we typically have a high pressure that pushes these systems out into the Pacific, they usually go westbound, but our setup is a little bit different for us here that we have right now. So we'll talk more also about that big ridge. This is causing a lot of heat right in the center of the country for us. This will be something that we'll be following closely too. A lot of heat and a lot of humidity as well. And then what's interesting is our system. That's Hillary for us. And we do have our trough coming in. Hillary actually is going to go all the way around this ridge and eventually end up, this is the northeast over here. Some energy from it will end up in the northeast. So it's pretty wild, the setup that we have, and something you do not see every day. We're bringing you live coverage. And good morning to you at home. Here's a look at Hillary, and it is just riding right along the coast of Mexico. So it hasn't made landfall yet. Because of that parallel movement, will it make landfall in Mexico? Will it make landfall in California? 22 million under a tropical storm watch. It is still a Category 1.
It is, and this could unleash excessive rainfall, fierce winds triggering high surf, rough surf across the coast here. And all of this could lead to potentially catastrophic flooding as we go through the rest of today and also into your tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not just the coast inland. For the first time ever, we have a high risk of flash flooding into Nevada. This thing is going to pack a punch, not only with the rain, but also the winds. Look at the wind advisory stretching all the way into Montana this morning.
Exactly. So this is not just a southern thing. This is going to continue to spread on off to the north for sure. So far, at least one man died.
With Hillary, and look at the cone going all the way to Oregon. It'll still be a depression perhaps at that time. And notice how it's just skimming the coast. In order for landfall to be called, the center of the center of circulation has to go over land. So even if just a little bit of that center goes over land, it's not technically landfall until the absolute center of that center goes over land. So right now we still have a Category 1. Look how fast this is moving. 21 miles an hour, moving to the north-northwest. That's one of the reasons it's staying just offshore here from Mexico. Category 1 at 80-mile-an-hour winds. It will continue to degrade as it's interacting with land and with those cooler water temperatures. But again, it's not just about the center and where it makes landfall, even though I know that is something we all look for. This is a wide-reaching storm. Lots of clouds, lots of showers being tossed right up, not only into California, Nevada, we are looking at you. Arizona, we're looking at you. Utah, we are looking at you, and all the way up into Idaho. Notice the red. That means a lot of moisture, and that is coming in. And Paul was talking about how some places could see a year's worth of rain in a matter of days. That's spots like Palm Springs. That's where Jen Carfagno will be live. Of course, we have live team coverage here throughout California into Vegas. Again, a lot of places where we see maybe a tenth of an inch, 3/10 of an inch for the entire month of August. Could double, triple, or quadruple that. Already some big winds here, 62-mile-an-hour winds. Hoover Dam National Park reports docks separating at Lake Mead already, and we are just getting into this. We do have tropical storm warnings, so that means you can expect tropical storm force winds, 39 to 73 within 36 hours. Well, guess what? It is here. Today is the day. Tomorrow we'll see improvements. So it's not only the winds, we have the swells, and also I think the heavy rain is what will be grabbing headlines as we head over the next 24 hours and start into the day tomorrow. Let's go back to talk to Paul in Southern California. He is in Coronado, just miles away from the San Diego metro area. And Paul, I know they had been evacuating some of the islands there. Did they do the same for places like Catalina Island? Did they take people off of those islands as they get to the mainland?
That was being
watching you. California, of course, we're feeling the effects right now. And California state parks temporarily closing all state beaches in Orange and San Diego counties due to Hurricane Hillary. It is just going to ride right along the coast. And is it going to make landfall in Mexico, California? It doesn't really matter, because we will all be feeling the effects, wide-reaching effects from this system. As we head through the afternoon, notice it will continue to interact with land and cooler water temperatures, and those winds will continue to die down. But that's just the hurricane force winds. In these thunderstorms, everything rotating around, you have the interaction with the land, with the mountains, with the hills, and the wind can get squeezed in between those and accelerate too. So where we do have the high wind warning, watch out for winds 25, 35 miles an hour. We could see them gusting 60 to 70 miles an hour. That can take down trees. That can take down power. Boat docks, those could have issues. High-profile vehicles. Right now, the winds aren't terrible, so that is good. Like Havasu up to 13, but it's not too bad. Wind advisory means 25 to 35, gusting to 55, and today is the day. Today's the day for the wind. Today is the day for the rain. And this is when we expect the tropical storm force winds to arrive. They're going to keep coming as we head on into the afternoon hours, especially around 2 o'clock. We have the Santa Ana Mountains up 5,600 feet, San Gabriel Mountains 10,000 feet, Santa Monica Mountains up 3,000 feet, Mount Laguna up 5,700 feet. And so you see these numbers, but don't forget when they're going to get squeezed. And I know you guys deal with the Santa Ana winds. You know what it's like to deal with strong winds. You know when those winds get squeezed between the mountains, how bad it can get where you live. So keep that in mind. I was talking to a friend who lived in the valley yesterday. I said, well, you're in the valley. You don't have too much elevation around you. He said, yeah, but for some reason, when the winds kick in here, they just go right on my little terrace and they sweep everything off. I said, okay, then pull everything in. Do that. The winds are also going to cause high surf force here. Rip current risk is high. I know that a lot of surfers will be tempted to go out, but you lose so many lives with people that try to go out in the ocean during these storms, Lynette. And look at the wave heights here, up to near 20 feet. Into Southern California, we could see them high as 8 feet.
Yeah, and that's why we had the double red flags out there today.
More ground to cover as we continue tracking Hurricane Hillary on Weekend Recharge. Our team of meteorologists are bringing you. It's coming in on the best day on a Sunday, right, where most people can actually stay put and stay home. We appreciate that advice. We want to take you now to Barstow. Dry in the desert areas like Palm Springs, but we have so many different mountains surrounding us, and the water's just going to funnel right down them.
Exactly. What goes up must come down, and that's exactly what's going to be happening. And we can see, look at all the oranges there. We see some yellows, 5 to 8, 3 to 5. Of course, in the mountainous regions, it's going to be maybe even higher than that.
Yeah, it could. Palm Springs, we averaged 4.61 inches a year on rainfall, and we could see 3 to 5, maybe 5+ inches of rain. And that's why we have this big threat, this high threat for flash flooding. By the way, the first time we've seen this into Nevada on record.
Exactly. But what really gets me about this whole thing is how far north it extends, or north and off towards the east. So that's don't sleep on this across that area as well.
Especially if you live inland. A lot of people, they hear tropical storm, they hear hurricane, they think coastal, 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 coastal. This will be a bigger event in the inland areas, and look at those flood advisories all the way up, as Lynette was mentioning, Idaho, even Montana being affected by the winds from this too.
Exactly. So that's going to be the name of the game. So of course we're here to keep you safe. What do you do? A lot of people not used to this at all. So here's some flood tips for you. Again, go to the highest building. And also, if you get caught in your vehicle, don't get out.
Yeah.
You know, people want to get out, but that's going to sweep you away as well. The water going so fast.
Let's try to not get it in the first place. Turn around, don't drown. We have the threat for severe weather, including tornadoes here into Southern California. By the way, this storm is falling apart as it comes ashore, but is still very fierce. And these thunderstorms are going to rotate around and bring the potential for tornadoes.
America's weekend depending
data. But the wind is still going to be an issue. Look at the advisories that we have anywhere from Arizona and California all the way up into Montana, believe it or not. We have those high wind warnings, and we also have the wind advisories. The warnings mean our gusts are going to be more in that 60, 70 mile an hour range. The advisories, the gusts could be as high as 55 miles an hour. That can take down trees. That can take down power lines. It's going to kick up the surf as well. Right now, Avalon has the highest gust here at 20 miles an hour. The winds will continue to worsen as the storm gets closer to us. It's moving very fast. Today is the day. You will have the worst weather today. We'll see improving conditions tomorrow. But notice as we head into the afternoon hours, that's when we are going to see the gustiest winds for us into Southern California. So right now, not too much of a problem, but as we head through, as the peak of hurricane season nears, your preparation should be in full swing, and it should also include your pets. But sometimes you have to leave in a hurry, and furry family members get left behind. Thankfully, there's an animal center in South Carolina that's here to help. Curious, what are people in Southern California saying to you? How are they feeling? I know also versus you have people there you spoke to that moved from Texas who are used to the storm. So what are you hearing from people who, are lifelong Californians versus people who have moved there from other places who have experienced this? Paul, on behalf of both of us this morning, let's talk Hillary, because it's zeroing in on Southern California, rare tropical storm. And notice the center of the circulation with this system is still just offshore here of Mexico. But as Paul was mentioning, it will be coming inland today. Nearly 22 million are under tropical storm warnings. The first time we've seen tropical storm warnings in Southern California.
Yeah, and this storm could unleash excessive rain, fierce winds, triggering high and rough surf for the coast, inland, and first ever high risk of flooding for the state of Nevada, which could lead to potentially catastrophic flooding, and high wind warnings are in effect for a chunk of the west, meaning it's going to pack a punch.
Yeah, look at this. From the flooding rain to those winds as well. It expands really far inland. That's the other thing. People think tropical storm, they think hurricane, and you think the coast. This is going to be an inland event for a lot.
Exactly. So make sure you keep it tuned to the Weather Channel. We're going to have everybody spread out across California. Make sure you know this too. So far, at least, unfortunately, one
storm. Now, Tropical Storm Hillary, the latest update that we got, now downgrading this to a tropical storm. We did have a hurricane all morning long, but it's interacting with cold water with land, and that means the winds are down. And so this is going to continue moving north, skirting the coast, and that is going to bring tropical storm force winds as we head into the afternoon and evening into Southern California. And the tropical storm force winds extend 39 to 73 miles an hour. And notice we're at 70, so we're just barely a tropical storm. It's picked up speed. If you were following this very closely, we were at 21 miles an hour. We're now at 25. Still north-northwest, which is keeping it just off the coast. In order to have landfall, the absolute center of this has to cross over land. That's when you officially have landfall, not when kind of the side of it scrapes it. The absolute center is what considered landfall. But we don't really need to obsess over where landfall is going to be, because this thing has wide-reaching impacts. The rain already coming in to Arizona, Nevada, Los Angeles, and more moisture is going to come on, creep northbound, getting a little bit of break here around the Palm Springs area, Coachella Valley. But we will see more moisture pulled around here along I-10, 15 here, and as we head northbound into Nevada. And by the way, we are going to see the effects of this stretch all the way into Montana as well. We're already seeing some issues here. We have State Road 177 closed due to significant flooding in California already. And we do have actually reports of rock and debris blocking roadways there into the Sierra. So tropical storm warnings extend throughout the entire region here in Southern California. It is not only the heavy rain, but we also have those winds. And then we're going to talk about the mountains surrounding this area that really are going to exacerbate those winds, and then large swells, surf, and rip current. We want everyone to stay out of the water. The waves can be up to 8 feet. Let's head to Southern California. We find meteorologist Paul Goodloe in Coronado. Paul, Southern California is known for like 72 and sunny, especially this time of year. But what is that humidity? Is it weird to feel that type of humidity in Southern California? And it's going to be a little chilly, too, staying in the 70s with that rain today.
Well, I tell you what's
closing all state beaches in Orange and San Diego counties due to Hurricane Hillary. Here's the thing. And I just want to get this right, because you might have seen this all over the place, different numbers. Oh, it's been since 1939 since we've had a tropical storm here. Here's the deal. The last time we had a landfalling tropical storm was 1939. They called it the Long Beach storm. That's what the name was, because it affected Long Beach. We did, however, in 1997 have a storm come up from the south, make landfall in Mexico, but still affect us into Southern California. So it's been since 97 since we've been affected by a tropical storm. It was Tropical Storm Nora, but 1939 since we've had a landfalling one. Will this landfall in Mexico? We're going to watch this closely, because it's right where that center crosses over land. Notice as we head into the evening, that's when we will have that center of circulation. But this thing is wide-reaching. Notice our wind advisories go all the way up into Montana with this thing. High wind warning. You could have gusts 60, 70 miles an hour, trees down, power lines, high-profile vehicles are going to have trouble going through some of this mountainous regions because, of course, the higher elevation, the higher the gust. The wind advisories, that means gusts up to 55 miles an hour. Don't forget, we have the Santa Ana Mountains down here, 5,600 feet, San Gabriel Mountains, 10,000 feet, Santa Monica Mountains go up 3,000 feet, Mount Laguna, just off to the east of San Diego, up 5,700 feet. So as you're going up in elevation and then the wind squeezing between some of those mountains, you will see that accelerated. You know, though, you're used to winds out here. Think of the Santa Ana winds. It's a little bit of a different thing, but you can try to use that as an example. This afternoon is when we'll get some of those tropical storm force winds coming in for us. So as we go through the afternoon, things are going to go downhill. They continue that overnight, but by tomorrow morning, I mean 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, we're going to see massively improving conditions. And one of the reasons is this thing is moving quickly. Lynette, over 20 miles an hour, so it's going to blow right through.
Yeah, that's the saving grace of it, too, is that this is a fast
areas. And I want to talk about that because places like Vegas, on average, we get about 0.3 of an inch of rain for all of August. And we could double that, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it doesn't take a lot. 0.5 inch to an inch of rain can cause flooding, can cause those issues. So let's show it to you here into Vegas. Right now, the winds aren't an issue. Those will come a little bit later, but we're already seeing the rain, and you saw it there at the coast, and we're getting it inland. And so the rain could be really, really problematic. We do have a high threat of flash flooding. That includes Death Valley. There are some closures due to this as well into Death Valley. So if you had plans today to go there, those might have to be adjusted. First time ever we've had a high threat of flash flooding here into Vegas. There's going to be a lot of firsts with this one, a lot of record sets with this one. On and off rain coming through. Some of these stronger thunderstorms could bring some heavy rain as well, and also some gusty winds. Let's talk about those winds, because under Vegas, there's your rainfall total. We could see, again, 0.5 inch to an inch. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it is when you usually get around 0.3 of an inch. Here are the high wind warnings that we have. We're going to have a southeast wind, 25 to 35, gusting to 60, and we could gust even higher, up to 75 miles an hour near Mount Charleston. Charleston Peak is at 12,000 feet, so the higher you go, the gustier the winds will be. Today is the day. Tomorrow, things will be improving for us. Palm Springs, another spot that is going to get some of that heavier rain. For the entire year, we get 4.61 inches. And we could see that in just a matter of days. And so that's why we're worried about the flooding there into Palm Springs. We have Jen Carfagno, also Charles Peak into Palm Springs, watching that. They were sandbagging. They talked to the mayor there that they said even the smallest amount of rain can cause flooding for us here into Palm Springs. We could see winds here also 50, maybe 60 miles an hour into the higher elevations. But look at that. 4 inches. And again, for the entire year, 4.61. It's just as mind-blowing.
It is.
That you could get that.
The only thing that I can say that's pretty good for this is the fact that the lakes, like Lake Mead, Havasu, like getting
yeah,
that
they can
rain.
use the rain. And
exactly.
It's moving quickly, which
yes.
thank goodness. If this is a slow mover,
we'd be all bets are off.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, let's take a look at.
In fact, much of the flooding could be inland. We want to take you to the city of Barstow that lies about 2,000 feet above sea level. In the dry season of Southern California, literally Los Angeles for the month of August, that's 0.00 inches of rain on average for the month. That's how dry it is usually.
Right, and then you're talking about all this rain, 5 to 8 inches possibly, maybe even 3 to 5. This is really like jaw-dropping.
It is.
You know?
You can see a year's worth of rain in some of the deserts here like Palm Springs. We've never had a high risk for flash flooding in Nevada on record. And notice how this goes all the way inland, even up into Idaho. There's that potential for flooding.
Exactly. You have that through tomorrow, but also as we head into your Tuesday as well. So you definitely have to be on guard even as we go into Montana. So Butte's like, oh, I'm in on this as well.
What's pretty wild is we have this big ridge in the center of the country causing heat, and the clockwise flow around that is helping direct this system up and over. And it actually goes through the northern tier and ends up in the northeast, the energy from this system. So it's pretty wild. But back to the west, those flood watches extend from California, Arizona, all the way northbound into Idaho.
Exactly. And so when we're talking about flooding, a big concern, turn around, don't drown. But if somehow you get caught in your vehicle, which you probably should not be in the vehicle, definitely need to stay at home.
Well, in the first place, let's not get there, right?
Exactly. You know, but if you do, make sure you stay in the vehicle because, again, you can get swept away. Only 6 inches of fast-moving water can do that.
Yeah, that's right. And we do have the threat for thunderstorms as well, with these cells coming around, and tornadoes, too. You're not used to this either. Tornado condition index. I know we've had a couple tornadoes out here, but it's a 3 out of 10. And you might say, well, that's low on the scale, Steph. But all it takes is one over your house to wipe it out.
Exactly. America's weekend depends on weather, and
Los County does have their rescue teams at standby, ready to go if needed here. But it's not just something we have to worry about here at the coast. This is going to be an inland event, especially with the winds. We've got high wind warnings. We're talking 60, 70 mile an hour winds, high wind advisories, gusts up to 55 miles an hour with that. Everything is still pretty calm this morning here into Southern California, Arizona, Nevada. But look at the tropical storm force winds creeping in, especially as we head into the afternoon hours. That's when we have the biggest threat for those winds to come in. And that is going to potentially cause some power outages here. It's going to cause issues if you are driving through those higher elevations because the winds are going to get stronger the higher you go. They squeeze in between the mountains. And today is the day. Tomorrow, things will be improving. Rip current risk. I know Southern California known for surfing, but I'll tell you what, Orange County, large breaking waves 4 to 7 feet, occasionally sets to 8 feet, particularly north of Newport Harbor. San Diego County, waves breaking 3 to 6 feet for us here. And we can see them also a little bit higher here into San Diego County as well. Notice that the waves coming in as this thing is falling apart, then we will see the waves go down. By the way, in San Diego County, the waves are expected to be highest north of Carlsbad, so we will continue to watch that. But today is the day. Stay out of the water. We will see improving conditions as we head into tomorrow, but we're going to see all those double red flags, Lynette.
All right, Steph. And
as we near the peak of hurricane season, those in hurricane-prone areas know how important it is to be prepared before, during, and after a storm. Meteorologist Reynolds Wolf talks with one lifelong Florida resident who decided to install a standby generator, and just in the nick of time.
Which can easily happen, especially in the burn areas. Just here in the county alone, the last 3 years, there's some 3 big wildfires that scarred parts of this county. Steph?
And I want to talk about that in a minute, but Paul, you mentioned those temperatures, and I feel like our average high is like low 70s, and our temperatures with this coming in are going to be mid to upper 70s. So we'll probably be a little bit above average with this too. Of us and the entire crew here at the Weather Channel, we have all eyes focused. Of course, that center of this system is still just offshore, not making landfall just yet, but we're already feeling the effects here into the southwestern U.S. It will continue to weaken. It's now a tropical storm, Hillary, but it'll continue to weaken as it interacts with the land and also those cooler water temperatures. Moving very fast, though. We have 22 million people who are under tropical storm warnings right now.
Exactly. And this storm could unleash an excessive rainfall rainfall, fierce winds triggering high and rough surf for the coast, inland, and first ever high risk of flooding for the state of Nevada, which could lead to potentially catastrophic flooding, and high wind warnings are in effect for a chunk of the West.
You think tropical entity, you think coastal system, but look at where we have the biggest issues. Some of those are going to be inland for us here in the lower 48.
Yeah, and unfortunately, so far, at least one person has died.
Still just off the coast. Landfall, it's going to be a tricky one to pick when these things parallel the coast, because for landfall, you need the absolute center of circulation to go over land, not just the side of it, but the absolute center to go over land. But it doesn't really matter where it makes landfall, because this thing has wide-reaching effects. We're already seeing the showers. We're already seeing some of those wind gusts come in. It's currently at 70 miles an hour here as a tropical storm, but look how fast it's moving. 25 miles an hour. That is very fast for a tropical entity. And notice that that cloud cover extends all the way up here past Nevada, as it is already, and the rain has already started to come down for us. Lots of moisture, tropical moisture. We have humid air here in Southern California. Like, what is going on? What is this humidity? We're used to that dry air. Rainfall extending all the way up into Montana from this thing already, and we will continue to see more. Today is the day that we will see the gustiest winds and that heaviest rain coming in for us. It's spreading through Vegas, where we typically get 3/10 of an inch for the entire month. And so we already have some issues here. Look at Snelling, 62-mile-an-hour gusts. California Highway Patrol, we have rocks and debris already, so we'll have more reports coming in. These are those tropical storm warnings. That means winds 39 to 73 miles an hour within 36 hours. Well, we're in it. It's 36 hours or less, and we are in it for us here. So heavy rainfall, that's going to be grabbing the headlines. And then we have our tropical storm conditions, and then large swells. We'll talk more about this and just how high the surf is going to get out there. Let's talk more about this. Someone who is right there on the water, Paul Goodloe in Southern California. He's just miles away from the San Diego Metro in Coronado, California. And Paul, aren't they closing the beaches there into Southern California with this system coming through today?
Yeah,
up to 40 miles an hour. Now, I was just looking at the visible satellite, and I'll tell you that center is just offshore from Mexico. So it looks like it'll probably make its original landfall here into Mexico. If it does, this will be only really the second time we've had a tropical storm in Southern California since 1997 when Nora came through. San Diego, Palm Springs, Los Angeles were all affected. Notice the winds in the interior. California state parks temporarily closing beaches in Orange, San Diego counties. High wind warnings mean gusts up to 60, even 70 miles an hour. And the high wind advisory means gusts up to 55 miles an hour. So watch for trees coming down, high profile vehicles. Be really careful here. Right now things are quiet, but as we head into the afternoon, that's when we will get those tropical storm force winds coming into Southern California. And remember, we have the Santa Ana Mountains at 5,600 feet, San Gabriel Mountains at 10,000 feet, Santa Monica Mountains going up 3,000 feet, and Mount Laguna just to the east here of San Diego at 5,700 feet. With that said, these wind gusts are going to be a lot higher. We've already seen 70, 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts actually into Southern California, and it's only going to get worse as that day goes on. But remember, elevation is going to be key, and if you happen to be like right where the wind comes around a mountain or right in between, you have to really, the topography makes a huge deal for us into Southern California. By tomorrow, this is all going to be out of here, but today is going to be the worst day. Rip current risks all along the beach here. And then, of course, we have those wave heights up to about 8 feet. That's what we'll see off of San Diego County, even in a little bit north of that. But again, this thing's falling apart as it's coming in, thankfully, or otherwise those wave heights would be a whole heck of a lot bigger. Today is the day. Tomorrow, it might be messy, Lynette, in the morning, but things will be improving as we head throughout the day.
Well, that's some good news.
Much more ground to cover as we continue tracking Tropical Storm Hillary. On situations going on, we have those scars that you mentioned, then we have just dry, arid deserts, both of which could have the same outcome, which would be flooding, and there could be slides. And Vegas is one of those spots that doesn't typically get a lot of rain in August. This is a dry season for Southern California. In Vegas, we average 3/10 of an inch of rain. That is not a lot of rain, and we are expecting perhaps twice that to fall. So this is how much rain we typically get for the month of August. By the way, LA averages 0.00 inches for the month of August. So that's why we do have that threat for flash flooding. Death Valley, there are some closures there. I know there are some closures at some of the national parks too. So if you did have plans to go to a national park today, I would check ahead because you might run into some difficulties there. Rain coming in through the day. Today is going to be the worst day for the rain and the wind. Tomorrow things will start improving from south to north as everything just races off to the north. Vegas, I know this might not look like a lot to see a ½ inch of rain, but when you typically get 3/10 for the whole month, if you get a ½ inch in a short amount of time, that is a big time deal. Winds will get worse as we head through the afternoon hours. And then, of course, we have Mount Charleston, where we could see wind gusts up to 75 miles an hour. In Vegas, we're talking 25, 35, and some of those gusts could be higher than that. Mount Charleston, by the way, the peak going up to 12,000 feet. Obviously, you're going to have higher winds the higher you go because there's less friction involved. So that's something we'll watch for here. Now, places like Palm Springs, we are under a very high risk for flash flooding. We average 4.61 inches for the entire year. And if this holds and the rain keeps coming in on the east side, then we could have significant issues into Palm Springs. We do have mountains here too. And usually what happens is our systems come in from the west. They hit the mountains. They rain out here on the west side. And that's why Palm Springs is so dry, because everything rains out. We're in a rain shadow. But with the rain coming in from this direction, it's going to bang up against the mountains and could all flood down into Palm Springs. So this is something we'll be watching very closely, Lynette.
All right. And Steph, this is why I say that the weather is so relative, because an inch in one spot is nothing, but is a lot in another spot.
Yeah, and how quickly it falls too, right?
Exactly. All right, let's talk about what's dumb. Yeah, you know, in the vegetation, it takes so long for the vegetation to grow back, if it even does. And because of this, we do have plenty of rain that's going to continue to add up. Look at this, 5 to 8 inches in some spots, 3 to 5. But the biggest thing is the fact of how far this goes.
Yeah, you think of hurricanes, you think of tropical storms, you think coastal, but this is going to be an inland event. The first time we've had a high risk for flash flooding here into Nevada. And as Lynette mentioned, look at those advisories. Even into tomorrow, a huge chunk of the west still has that potential for flooding here.
Exactly. So tomorrow and even into Tuesday, we'll see more of the same down off towards Missoula, around Boise, even Cedar City. Vegas, you're still in on this as we go into your Tuesday. So, you know, you talked about things going inland, but this is more of the trend now. When you start to see some of these tropical systems more farther inland, a lot of people, like you said, think it's the coast, but it's not.
No, and we've had that on the East Coast all the way into like the Ohio Valley and inland in the Northeast. We've had issues. So I know we're not used to it here. We had a very wet winter, and we are going to see more of that rain coming in for us here. So, you know, go to the highest level of your building when it comes to the flooding here. Do not get caught in your vehicle. All you need is 6 inches of swiftly moving water to knock you off your feet, 2 feet of swiftly moving water to float and move a car.
Yeah, and when we talk about tropical systems, they also can spin up tornadoes.
Yeah,
so we do have the potential for some strong and severe thunderstorms here. We can see there in the red shaded coloring here. Again, they're not like your supercells, but still a tornado. We don't want those.
No, and we have a 3 out of 10 on our Torcon. Another thing you're not used to. You're not used to the tropical entities. You're not used to the tornadoes. And yes, a 3 might be low on the scale, but all you need is one tornado, and we could get them here over your house to wipe it out.
Exactly. So watch as this goes into motion. We'll start to see, again, plenty heavy rain moving over Bakersfield. Again, rain extending all the way off to the north. This is on your Monday morning, so it's going to be a rough go of it for sure, Steph.
Yeah, things are going to be improving, though, from south to north as this system races off into Canada and into the northern tier.
America do is hope that everybody has heeded the warnings and they're prepared for what's to come, because it's no stopping it now.
Yeah, I think it's wild because you think tropical storm hurricane. I'm used to seeing all sorts of wind advisories right by the coast, but this thing is going to be expansive with its winds in inland areas, because it's not just about that center point, and I can't emphasize that enough. It's not about landfall and the eye wall on this. This is just a wide-reaching effect. We've already seen 70 near 80-mile-an-hour gusts here into portions of Southern California, of course, at elevation.
Yeah, and of course, these winds are going to continue to ramp up a little bit more, again, like you said, at elevation, but tropical storm force winds, not out of the question. We're looking at this in Los Angeles, around San Diego, as we go into the afternoon for for today. So we're looking at 39 to 73 mile an hour winds gusting.
Yeah, and even higher than that. Yuma, look at over 60 mile an hour winds. The higher you go, or maybe in between those two mountain peaks, you'll get the winds. Or if you happen to live right around where the wind kind of whips around, it will be today. By tomorrow morning, things are going to start to weaken as the storm races north.
Yeah, those canyons, those passes, no joke for sure. Yeah. With all that wind, we do have a high rip current risk for today. And luckily, those double flags are flying, so that means that the beaches are closed.
Yeah, they are closed here, and we can see anywhere from 12. Look at our wave heights here just off of San Diego, already at 9 feet. And then we will see, of course, the waves kind of kick up this morning in Southern California, and then they'll start to die down as we head later in the day.
Yeah. On Weekend Recharge, we're continuing our coverage of Hillary as it inches closer to southern.
Here as we start to wrap up our show, and we'll hand it off to our colleagues here at the Weather Channel. We have Tropical Storm Hillary, winds at 70 miles an hour, moving northwest at 25 miles an hour, racing off here throughout the west. Still has yet to make landfall. The center of this circulation has to go over land. It can't just like skirt just the side of it. It has to be right over the center in order to have landfall. But the moisture is already streaming northbound for us, and it will continue to move north. As we head this evening, it's going to be deep into Southern California. And I'll tell you what, by tomorrow morning early, and speaking of early, me and Jordan Steele will be live starting at 5 a.m. tomorrow. We're live all through the evening, but you can join me and Jordan tomorrow at 5 a.m. We'll bring you the very latest on this system. But by 5 a.m., conditions will start improving from south to north, because the thing will just continue to just race through the west. Tropical storm warnings for over 20 million here in Southern California. And what this means is you're going to feel those tropical storm force winds within 36 hours, and it's less than 36 hours because we're already starting to get some of those gusts here above tropical storm force strength. So heavy rain in the southwest, tropical storm conditions, and large swells are going to cause life-threatening surf and rip current. The swells up to about 8 feet from this already today, this morning, and the beaches are closed due to all of this really rough surf force out here. Look at the rain, though, going around our ridge, which is causing huge heat in the center of the country, but a clockwise flow around that is what's pulling all of this moisture and this system heading northbound for us, and we'll continue to follow this closely right here on the Weather Channel with our live crews. Rain getting all the way up into Yellowstone. Flooding is going to be a huge problem. So stay with the Weather Channel.